Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Flatline here. I just got home and I missed the live campfire chat, so I've kind of been watching this and getting caught up. And I thought I'd take a minute here to share my thoughts of this season of Blood. I was very hopeful for Diablo 4 prior to it launching, and when it launched, I kind of put naysayers beside. I enjoyed the game, put a bunch of hours into it, more than I would probably care to share. Liked it, but it fell on its face. As everybody knows, it kind of just got worse. I was very hopeful for Season 1, and again, even more so, it fell on its face even harder. It was quite the letdown, and the game truly just seems like it needs way more time. So, again, I'm still hopeful. Call it copium, whatever you want to call it. I'm still very hopeful for the game. I love Diablo, and I want to see it be successful. Whether it's going to be, we're going to see. But they discussed today the Season of Blood, and I kind of wanted to just go through. As you can see, I've got it pulled up here. I watched both the intro that they released, and then I watched the entirety of the campfire chat. Well, I say the entirety, a vast majority of it, and tried to hit some high points here that kind of stuck out to me. That are going to be good things, as well as some things that kind of made me laugh, thinking that this is absolute dog shit. But we'll kind of go through here real quick. I'll jump around and then discuss as we go along. So the first thing I want to touch base on is going to be the actual class lord, the season mechanic, the vampiric blood powers that you're going to essentially extract from certain things as you do. And they've talked about like how you can obtain these through monsters or like bounty boards and things like that. Overall, whenever I heard them kind of discuss it, I'm actually a kind of a fan of it. I think it's a decent system. Is it like revolutionary? No. But I do like that it's a step away from the powered gems that we had in Season 1, because the powered gems in Season 1 were very beneficial to very specific classes or very specific builds, while other ones really hard fell on its face, and obviously they kept having to adjust things, or like the barber, right? It's just broken ass OP. And I'm assuming probably that this is going to have certain layers that are going to be overpowered, but as a general rule, I from what I gather anyways, I like the vampiric powers. I think it's fairly neat. Not, like I said, not revolutionary, but overall it's pretty solid, and I think it'll be a fun thing to test and play around with. This I kind of started with like a high point, what I like. So now I'm going to kind of go off with the what made me laugh, and definitely a con that I have run into. I'm going to kind of play a little bit of a snippet here for you, like a little segment of this clip, and then I'll explain to you as to why I got a kick out of this.
So as part of Season 2, we actually added a bunch of new monsters. Lord
Hold that right there. He just said we added a whole bunch of new monsters. This dude look familiar to you? Maybe he looks kind of just like a revenant.
You'll see them all over the overworld. You'll see them in a variety of dungeons. Paired.
Looks identical to a revenant. It's nothing new. It's literally just a reskin.
These guys, we also have our blood skeletons. These guys are kind of similar to our regular skeletons, but they also come with new attacks.
Just a standard ass skeleton that's been reskinned.
That allow you to have
bat
new
reskin
play and techniques in order to
standard mage reskin. This is where I've got an issue with what they're doing. If you're going to tell players that you have a bunch of new monsters in the game, one thing the community has kind of been going on about is that it's very repetitive, and there is no, end game. There's lack of content, etc., etc., right? you can't tell the community that we have new monsters and literally just take whatever assets you have and slap another skin on it and call it good. They're doing just the standard Blizzard thing. And what does Blizzard do? They sell you loot boxes, they sell you a battle pass. What's in said loot boxes and battle passes? Skins. That's what they do. They just keep selling new skins. Well, that's all we're going to keep getting. And I'm afraid it's going to continue on in every single patch from here on out, or season, I guess I should say, from here on out, is that you're going to just get X mob, and they're going to reskin it as Y, and then they're going to call it a new season and a new mob. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to touch here is going to be over what they have listed as end-game bosses. And this is per their chart. I'm still baffled, and whenever you listen to Joe Peoria talk about this, he talks about the natural progression of the game. And this is the same thing we've all done multiple times. World Tier 1 and 2, you go through your normal stuff. You're kind of just going through the game, right? The baseline game. And that's great. In all honesty, 1 through 50, probably my favorite part of the whole game. I liked making new characters and running through that first segment because you are progressing so fast. You're seeing all new content, whatever, right? World Tier 3, they're already putting Varshan and I don't know if you call this guy Grigori. They're putting these two as your 50 to 70. These are they're calling them new for new end game bosses at level 50 to 70. That's nowhere near end game. Well, then they continue on down here with Varshan, this new beast in the ice. Again, Grigori, the same guy that was just up here through 50 to 70, he's now in the 70 to 100. Lord Zir is now in, and Duriel, which we've already fought Duriel, so he's nobody new. It's nice that they're adding him into a rotation. But even Joe says that Echo of Lilith is still the end game. They have added nothing as far as what I would call end game bosses, because they're telling you right here, middle of the game, we're adding these bosses here to the mix, and two of the same guys are already here in the 70 to 100. So the only thing that is actually new is going to be the Beast in the Ice and Lord Zir, because he is the new season boss that's end game. And I'm assuming that it's not even going to be end game. Echo of Lilith is truly an end game to me. Lilith is the true end game. But, I don't know, maybe they're going to adjust the hell out of these things and make them mechanically the same as Echo of Lilith, but I highly doubt it, because they did state that these bosses are going to be a way for you to farm, I believe what they said is very special uniques that we have been searching for. I'm taking that as they're pushing the drop rate for certain things like Tempest Roar, that people can't have. But also I take it that they're going to wind up putting Uber uniques in these, and they're going to push the drop rate for Uber uniques, be it Shakos and Grandfathers and things like that. I think they're going to make it to where these are just going to be like more easily obtainable for the regular person. Okay, moving on to general quality of life improvements. Some of these things, is what it is, right? I guess, right? Incense, I guess that's nice that it persists on. Nothing really big to me. Scroll of Escape, sure. I'll just be 100% honest with you. I'm not even a fan of Scroll of Escape. That kind of, to me, defeats the purpose of a hardcore character. The entirety of a hardcore character is that it's hardcore. When you die, you die. And I get it that there's disconnects and that shit happens. That's live service, and I hate that. Again, this is why offline mode would be nice. Offline mode is almost a necessity for hardcore, but that's a whole nother discussion. Experience bonuses are multiplicative. Great. They're just going to make it to where you can level up even faster than we already level up, which we can level up extremely fast. Renown rewards now persist between seasons and new characters, as it should. You never should, in my opinion, you only should have ever had to farm renown once, and that was the baseline of the game. So it's good to see that they're like making all of it persistent. That's great. The overworld monsters, 3 and 4, they just regressed what they did before, where they tried to make monsters lower level than you, and they did it to kind of like make you feel stronger, but it in turn kind of ruined things because you were stronger, I suppose, but it took you longer to level because you were getting a negative in the open world. So now that they've regressed it, now they're going to match you. That's great, and that's where it needed to be. I hated that they changed that to begin with, so I'm glad to see that is a regression back to what it was originally. All right, here's one that's kind of a biggie to me if it truly does work. They say that mounts now are more responsive, less likely to get stuck or slow down unexpectedly. If that's true, that is a godsend, because I absolutely hated the mounts in this game. Like, I liked the idea of the mounts because it's a big open world. You can run to and from, events, things like that. But it would piss me off whenever I'm going down through there and you just get hung on the most random shit that was never even there. Or, you barely brush up against something and you just stop dead in your tracks, and it just drove me nuts. They said the base mount movement speeds increased by 14%. Great. Top speed's unchanged, but your spur speed is even faster. That again is cool. And of course, it's going to allow you to break through barricades. That was kind of a crux. Like, those barricades, I think that they're... I really don't know, in all honesty, what to think about the barricades. I think that they were a neat concept, maybe on paper, that, hey, you're traveling along on your horse and then you get stopped by an army of zombies or whatever that pop up. I like that, but the thing is that, one, it stopped you while you were progressing, and nobody likes to be stopped while they're progressing. But two, if you're gonna stop me while I'm progressing, make it worth my while. So, like, if these barricades were to stop me, give me a reason to stop and fight them. Jump off, kill them. Maybe I get some, like, good gold out of it, a potential for something loot-wise, whatever. But they were useless. It was typically like 2 to 3 mobs just stop you to piss you off. So now that you can blow through barricades, great. So essentially you're making barricades useless. Why are they still in the game then? I don't know, but at least it's a step in the right direction. They've also reduced the cooldowns as well for the mounts. So that's nice. That was kind of a pain in the ass that you would get off, fight something, you may kill it, and then you're standing around twiddling your thumbs. So that's great to see that they shortened the cooldown. This is a big one to me, and they finally have made teleporting to nightmare dungeons direct. I know everybody wanted to be able to teleport to dungeons. They said, hey, we hear you. We're doing what we can just rapidly. And they made it to where we could jump into the very beginning of the dungeon and then move into the dungeon. I don't understand it. I'm not a developer, so I'm not going to sit here and try to speak as to why they could or could not do it. But I wish that they would have just done this first. Take a little bit of extra time or whatever it was and make this happen. Because whenever we were teleporting in front of the dungeon, you had a load screen to teleport into the or in front of the dungeon, and then again when you stepped in, you had another teleport screen, and a lot of or a load screen, I guess I should say. And a lot of times it caused a lot of lag for people because everybody was teleporting right there over and over and over. So I'm glad to see that you just drop right in now. That's great. The dungeon event monsters are increased, like the density, and the NPCs don't just die. That's great because there were some events inside there that I absolutely avoided. One, there weren't enough mobs involved with it to make it worth my time, and two, I knew that the NPC was going to die. There was almost like no way to stop it. So I'm glad to see they fixed that. In this one, the traps, right? So we're going to be able to see traps easier. but also CC in general. This is a little bit off. It's a little bit off in the way that they presented it, because it's under traps. Traps CC overall has been greatly reduced. That's not necessarily the entirety of it. They did go on to cover and say that it is not just traps. Monsters in general, CC across the board has been reduced greatly. So if you get stunned, you're not going to be stunned for 4 seconds and then everything just kills you. That they supposedly have reduced that way down, so we'll see. If that's the case, again, a massive step in the right direction, because CC was a huge negative for this game. CC needs to happen, obviously, but not to the point where you would just get smoked instantaneously. Here's another one that is a massive step in the right direction for Nightmare Dungeons. They completely removed objectives from a handful of dungeons, so you're able to just go into the dungeon like you should and just fight. I absolutely hated, especially if I was playing solo, that you would have to, go get the box, put the box on your back, walk to the middle of it, drop the box off, walk to the other side of the dungeon, get a box, walk back, drop it off, and then you continued on. Like that it was very time consuming, and for me, I just hated it. I absolutely hated it. I think a lot of you share that same thought process, is that it was very crappy. So I'm glad to see that that's gone. They have also redesigned the layout of multiple dungeons, and they kind of go on to talk about how they're going to limit backtracking on it. And, where dungeons before you might have had to walk around, further on. Let's see if I can jump up here. Yeah. You might have to walk through here and you would hit these 3 or whatever, right? Or you went through and you missed this one guy right here, and you're like, oh crap, you killed all these, now you got to walk all the way back. So they've kind of tried to help alleviate that, and they've made it way more streamlined. So whenever you take a path through, everybody's on X path. So that's nice. You still have different ways to go through, but it's just supposedly supposed to help alleviate a lot of the backtracking, which again was very time consuming. Okay, what they're going to list as in-game activities, of course, because Nightmare Dungeons is your in-game run through, and they want Helltides and Whispers, Tree of Whispers, to be in-game, so they're listing it as that. Of course, they're trying to align the caches that you get from the end of Nightmare Dungeons. They're trying to align them more with you, which is good. I like that. I think that's good. Makes Nightmare Dungeon rewards more worth it. Gold rewards from your Whisper caches, they said this greatly increased, and they've said this multiple times. They kept talking about this multiple times, and I think that kind of goes to another point we're going to reach here pretty quick. I think why they're heavily emphasizing that this is greatly increased. Your experience from Whispers and Helltides has been increased substantially. I think that they're boosting that because, again, there's no real reason to run a Whisper or Helltide. The only reason I stepped into Helltides on this last Malignant season was purely to just get some crafting materials. That was it. Otherwise, I didn't run Whispers. I didn't run Helltides. There was no reason to. The Whisper caches. This, to me, is kind of a biggie. The items now will adhere to the slot of the cache. So what they said was, like, if you opened up a cache for gloves, it is only going to drop gloves. Or if you open one for boots, it's only going to drop boots, right? It's going to drop only respective items to said cache, which is great, because I hated whenever I would drop for gloves and it just spit out random shit everywhere. That would always piss me off, and it was kind of pointless. Essentially, you were opening up chaos chests every time. You never knew what the hell you were going to get. One thing here that they've attempted to maybe alleviate some problems is that gyms, they're not going to take up inventory slots anymore, which is great because that's going to help loosen up some of your stash space. So what it's going to be is that your gyms, you don't drop gyms anymore, you drop gym materials, and those materials then, they're just like your normal, white, yellow, blue, right, materials. And then you go to the gym vendor, and then you have the materials, and then you craft the gem. When you craft a gem, then yes, it then goes into your inventory and takes up a slot. But what's cool is that you can take that same gym, say you've out leveled it or whatever, you salvage that gym down, and then it goes back into a management tab, material management tab, which is nice. It's not perfect. I would still prefer it to be a little bit different, but it is what it is. It's definitely a step in the right direction. This enhancement or enchantment cost have been updated. It's very vague. What they kind of said was that your first initial roll is going to be kind of pricey, but then after that, it's supposed to be substantially less. And they said that just allows you to keep rolling and re-rolling and re-rolling to your heart's content. But they went back on this and they touched on the gold. And they said, well, we've boosted the amount of gold that you're going to get from Tree of Whisper caches. And they kept circling back to this. So I'm wondering how much they truly adjusted this. As I absolutely hate this, because if you're seeking a specific role, you can burn through, any of it's nothing to burn through 20, 30 million gold on one item and not get what you want. So hopefully they've substantially reduced that, and then they've substantially boosted the amount of gold you get. That way it's a massive offset, and you can keep re-rolling if you want. The crafting materials. So now as we level up into World Tier 3 and 4, so World Tier 3, like your normal items, it's just not going to drop normal anymore. It's only going to drop sacred items on the ground. And then it will drop materials, normal materials. So that's great. And then, of course, when you go on to 4, you're going to stop dropping sacred items and normal completely. So you'll get all the crafting materials from them. You're only going to drop equipable items, as they call it. So you would only drop ancient items in Tier 4. So that, I think, is going to be a massive improvement. You're not going to sit there and be sorting through shit you don't need. This segment, I think, is going to help push and progress gear. So not that really that gear was hard to find or come by to begin with, but I think, again, this lends towards people that don't have a whole lot of time. No-lifers like me, we can sit there and just farm and grind until we get what we want, but this is going to help push other people in a good direction. And I know some of you have, and I've run across this, where you'll drop an item. You may already be, all of your gear is already, high 700s or 800, right? And you drop this really nice unique and it rolls like a 6 something. And you're like, what the shit? And you're not going to use it because it's way worse than what you're using. So this will kind of help keep that in check. It's going to push up the item power potential as you go up, which is nice. The Whispers cache, so now it says it's always going to be plus 10 item power. And then the upgraded, like the orange outline, very specific upgraded chests are going to be plus 20, with your Hell Tides being plus 20 as well when you open up those chests. So that's great. No, it cannot go above the item cap. That's not going to be a thing, but it helps push you towards that cap. So for, like I said, for normal people that are just playing here and there, that's going to help them progress quite a bit. And to kind of finish this out, this was the last thing that kind of made me chuckle, is that they seemed extremely proud of this, that Diablo 4 is coming to Steam. And Adam Fletcher over here said, we're going to be bringing in lots of new players because it's coming to Steam. I'm going to kind of take this from the Overwatch book. When Overwatch, if you played Overwatch, you knew Overwatch. You played it through Battle.net. You don't give a shit what platform it's on. You played it through there, right? If a game is brand new and it's launching across multiple platforms, yes, I would always prefer to pick Steam over, say, Epic Game Store or GOG or whatever, right? Insert X Game Store. If I have the option for Steam, I'm picking it. But everybody that owns D4, they're not going to run out and go buy it on Steam. Or there's not somebody that's been like, you know what, fuck Diablo 4, I'm not going to play that until it launches on Steam, and then now we're going to have this massive ass influx of players. That's not going to be the case, guys. This is an absolute joke, and I can tell you what's going to wind up happening is that Diablo 4 is going to get bombed, just like it did on Overwatch 2. You go look at Overwatch 2 on Steam, it's an absolute monstrosity of negative reviews. It got review bombed, and it's not going to bring in a huge influx of players. The only thing that this may help with is where Adam touched base about, you know, if you have a Steam Deck, now you can take it anywhere with you. That's great, and that is true. But that's going to be an extremely, extremely small percentage of people. And I, for one, can tell you that I'm not going to go buy a Steam Deck and then go buy another copy of Diablo 4. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to give them another $70. Now, if it was hey, you already own it, and if you want to play it on Steam, you can, and it's cross-platform, and we're going to give it to you, great. But they're not going to do that, guys. They're going to recharge you for another thing. So I think that this is an absolute joke. We're not going to see some huge influx of players like they're expecting. So I think that that's crap. Whatever. They are going to have another campfire chat on the 10th. So it's going to wind up being next Tuesday. And, of course, I'm going to watch and review that and kind of cover it. I'll touch base back here again with what they have to say on that, because they said it's going to take multiple of these campfire chats to cover everything that's going to come up in Season 2. So I'm kind of curious as to what they've got coming on this next one. But anyways, that's going to be it for me, guys. Just to kind of reiterate, I am still very hopeful, but I don't think Season 2 is going to do it. So far, what they've talked about is nothing groundbreaking, it's nothing huge, and a lot of the stuff that they covered is just purely quality of life shit that they should have done out the gate. And they're touting it as, you know, some Season 2 perk or bonus that we should be excited for. And all these new monsters that are actually not new, they're just reskins. So we'll see what they have to say in the next one, and we'll be back and cover it all then. So until the next video, peace.